going on, people? What is happening? Happy Monday. I hope everyone's doing well on this wonderful Monday afternoon. And the dust has settled, guys. And I have been able to rewatch the game. And I think my emotions from the game last night, my opinion has definitely changed. My opinion has definitely changed slightly. I think yesterday I was a lot more on the emotional side of things. Now I'm on more so the logical side, but I'm still slightly underwhelmed with the result yesterday. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well if you are new here. Now, the biggest talking point that we're going to talk about today is Bruno Fernandes, who's expected to be out for at least 1 month for Manchester United, which is crazy because Bruno Fernandes has never been out. They've never been out. He's never been out for injury, sorry. And now he finds himself not only out for a month, out at a very critical time for Manchester United. This run, this festive area in the Premier League is always tough. I can't remember the last time Manchester United had a good December/opening January, end of December, opening January period. Maybe it might have been Ten Hag's. It was probably that period after the World Cup in Erik Ten Hag's first season. Since then, it always feels like the last 2 weeks of December and the first week or so of January is always a tough combination of games for Manchester United. And Bruno Fernandes now will be out. And I wonder if that will force Manchester United's hand into making an emergency signing in the January window for the midfield. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Joshua Zirkzee to Roma reportedly edging closer. It's a loan plus obligation or option to pick up. And Roma have been very keen on getting personal terms agreed with him. We're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about links for Manchester United, because the two players that we've been linked to quite heavily over the last week or so is Antoine Semenyo of Bournemouth and Ruben Neves of Al Hilal, who reportedly wants a return back to the Premier League and he wants to be back in Europe. So we're going to talk about that. And then, of course, we're just going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the Aston Villa game tactically. Got the tactical board up as well, so we can go through that and any other kind of news that pops up over the next hour or so. So be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well if you are new here. AFCON is on as well. So I was just watching Mali versus Zambia. I think Zambia just scored, equalized in the last minute. Some good players that I've seen so far in AFCON. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the competition. Let me know if you lot are looking forward to watching it as well. But like I said, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well if you're new here. And remember, Straight Jacket Pod straight after this, so I'll redirect to that. So yeah, let's get into it. Big up to DJ, says Minoo. Bruno being injured opened a can of worms we are not prepared for, but it might be a blessing. I love Bruno, but the guy needs a break. I was screaming Bruno tired since the game against Spurs. I agree. I agree with that to an extent, that we do need, like, this is going to show us life without Bruno. And I genuinely do think there will be a life without Bruno Fernandes in the near future. It might be closer than what a lot of people think. Now, yesterday's game, Ruben Amorim tried a little tactical change by playing Licha in the 6 and playing Ugarte in Bruno's position. I don't want to ever see Ugarte in Bruno's position ever again. Never, ever. I would have preferred to see Mason Mount there and maybe Joshua Zirkzee playing in the 10. But I don't want to see Ugarte playing there. But we're going to talk about that in a lot of detail. And obviously, we're going to talk about the Kobbie Mainoo injury that Ruben Amorim has alluded to. I mean, it's weird. Let's actually should we start with the Kobbie Mainoo thing? We'll start with the Kobbie Mainoo thing. Let me just pull up Kobbie Mainoo on here. We'll start with that, because I'm just a bit, I don't want to say that, like, I will never accuse the manager of lying, FYI. It's very convenient that Kobbie Mainoo becomes injured suddenly off the back of the situation with his brother and the t-shirt. With saying that, this would have been the best time for Kobbie Mainoo, because we've been hearing the last couple of weeks is we're going to need, Kobbie needs to stay patient. He's going to be needed, AFCON, etc. And then the situation arises with his brother wearing a free Kobbie Mainoo shirt. I've already shared my thoughts on that. I thought that was ridiculous from him, from his brother. And I also think it's been absolutely ridiculous from British media, especially specific journalists who have come out and said, without any legit source, they said people have confirmed to me that Kobbie Mainoo knew about it, and then you put Kobbie in the firing line for something that his brother's done. I think that's pathetic from Ben Jacobs. He was the one that did that. Every other journalist came out and kind of shut that narrative down immediately. It was only Ben Jacobs that was saying, "Oh, Kobbie was aware of it." But with saying that, I'm not gonna sit here and say the manager's lying, because in the past, when he's dropped players. He didn't shy away from it. When he dropped Marcus Rashford, he didn't shy away from the conversation about why Marcus Rashford was not in the match day. He didn't shy away from, the disciplinary issue that he was having with Marcus Rashford at the time. So I genuinely think there probably can be some truth to him picking up a little knock. It's just a coincidence. Yeah, here Adam says it. It's really just a coincidence. And I think as football fans, we love conspiracy theories, right? And I will be damned if it comes out that he's not injured and the manager's taken action on him. But I don't think that's the case personally, and it's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate turn of events for him to pick up an injury, especially with the fact that Bruno went out injured. I don't think there's more to it. Genuinely speaking, I genuinely don't think there's more to it. But let's start with, obviously, the big topic of conversation is Bruno Fernandes never gets injured. I think he's been out twice with an injury at Manchester United, and he's missed 1 or 2 games. He does not, I watched, I read the transcripts from his interview with the Portuguese media last week. I listened to his interview with Rio Ferdinand. I actually really enjoyed that interview on Rio's podcast. If you ain't checked it out, go check it out. So I really enjoyed that, and he I don't want to say he jinxed himself, but he spoke about the fact that, and in both interviews, he spoke about the fact that he's always available, always fit, never injured, never complains, plays whenever the manager wants him, whenever the club need him, he's available, he's consistent. And then he pulls up with a hamstring injury, which is unfortunate. It's just unfortunate to pull up with a hamstring injury. At first I thought, because he stopped, and then you saw him hobbling a little bit. I'm thinking, and then he kicks it out of play. I'm thinking, yeah, if it's like a challenge, right? I think it was not after this challenge. It was quite a bit after this challenge. When I realized that he was playing on, he realized half time was approaching, and we had a set piece, we had a corner, right? And the guy could barely walk. He was struggling to walk on the edge of the field, and then he was signaling to the bench like, I need to come off. And it's just unfortunate. But I think this also allows, I think it's crazy to say this, but I think there could be a blessing in disguise for Manchester United with Bruno being out injured, because it will force Manchester United to make the necessary adjustments to prepare for life after Bruno Fernandes in that midfield. Not just in the midfield, but also I think the creative element of Manchester United's game, the way that we play. It might feel like it will force also, it will force Manchester United to find players that can step up. Because for far too long, United have relied on Bruno Fernandes so much that when he's not able to play in form and he's inconsistent and he's struggling in game, United is struggling. So it will allow us to detach from that. But it also will allow Manchester United, I think, to start looking at the kind of way that we play and especially that midfield, and understand, okay, who can really play here if Bruno Fernandes ain't playing here? Because it's not even, midfield is not even Bruno's natural role at Manchester. He's not a midfielder, the sitting midfielder alongside an Ugarte or etc. He's not that. He's not that. He's been forced into that. And he speaks about that in his interview with Rio, about this new position that he's playing. And he says he's enjoying it. But he also talks about the fact that, he's a risk taker, right? He said, I'm a risk taker. I like to take risks, etc. He said, I'll always take risks instead of, playing it safe. And it's harder to take risks when you play in that midfield, because you are obviously closer to your own goal. So the opportunity for the opponent to capitalize on a potential mistake or a potential reduction in your risk that you're taking is higher, because you're closer to your goal. Now, with saying that, yesterday's game, let me pull up the tactic board. This is what we looked like yesterday, right? Let me just zoom in. Apparently this is the most I can zoom in, so we got to make do with that. So this is the tactic board. This is what we looked like yesterday. This is without any changes or anything. Ugarte, for me, in my honest, humble opinion, even with Bruno Fernandes out, even with Mainoo out, Ugarte should not play for Manchester United unless it's do or die. You've got no other senior midfielder available. And even then, I struggled to justify whether he should start or not, or play, even come on off the bench. I don't think Ugarte should be anywhere near playing for Manchester United. And when we signed him a year ago, I never wanted it. He wasn't my first choice. I always wanted João Neves. Realistically, it was never going to happen. But I wanted João Neves. I would have even taken shit. Excuse my language. Thuram. Khéphren Thuram. I would have even taken Khéphren Thuram. Ugarte for me is going to be a damning player now that Bruno Fernandes is out. I think we will see his issues even more with Bruno Fernandes being out. A possible pivot of these two is the most scariest thing I can think of, generally speaking. But if we just talk about yesterday's game, if we just start with yesterday's game, one thing that I think is quite harsh, right? I think it's really harsh. The criticism that and how much Diogo Dalot gets singled out. Diogo Dalot and Dorgu are playing as wingbacks, right? And I'm not here to defend Diogo Dalot, but it's a bit like sometimes I'm like the pylon on Diogo Dalot is a bit too much sometimes, because Diogo Dalot and Patrick Dorgu are both playing as wingbacks for Manchester United. Out of the two of them, one of them has played at wingback, but yet both of them struggle for me at wingback. Patrick Dorgu plays a great ball in to Cunha yesterday, who should slot it away. It should have been a goal. But the number of times we watched him hit it on Matty Cash or hit it on McGinn, I lost count. I don't know why Diogo Dalot gets singled out. For me, personally, if I'm seeing a fullback playing in the wingback position, my criticisms won't be as heavy as a wingback who's playing in that position. Because playing is that's why Ahmad, for me, Ahmad is the better of wingbacks at United, because the wingbacks are obviously more like wingers than they are fullbacks. But you got a fullback playing as a wingback. 1 minute he's playing on the left, one minute he's playing on the right. I think it was Roy Keane yesterday after the game that was like singling Diogo Dalot out, and I was just thinking, why are you singling him out of everyone? Even out of all the people that have played wingback for Manchester United that have struggled, why are you singling him out? It's a weird one for me. Now, another thing that I've seen, of course, is this here, the conversation about the goal yesterday, or the goals yesterday. Both great finishes from Morgan Rogers, he's in the form of his life right now. But again, another pylon on Leny Yoro. I think the conversation we should be having about Leny Yoro, less than 12 months ago, we saw him get absolutely ripped apart by Kamaldeen Sulemana at Southampton, right? The question should be, why is it 12 months later he's still having those shaky performances? We brought a young product. Have we developed him? Now, I'm not going to compare him and Aiden Heaven, but I think Aiden Heaven is a great prospect. Is a great prospect, right? And also, out of the two of them, Aiden Heaven is the less experienced one out of the two of them, because Aiden Heaven really started making his senior appearances at Manchester United. He wasn't making appearances for Arsenal. Whereas Leny Yoro came from the French league, playing for Lille, making appearances in his first in 1 year. So he had that under his belt. But when he's being called out for being poor defensively, not attacking wise, and he's a defender, fair criticism. I think the criticism is valid, but the pylon that I'm seeing on like social media is different. It's not criticism. It's not criticism. Criticism for me, I don't know if you guys might think of criticism in a different way. For me, criticism is highlighting someone's flaws, their errors, saying how they should do better in those situations, etc. Not giving it verbal and making it personal with the player. For me, the biggest question is, did we buy a player a young prospect, a young talent that has a high ceiling? And have we developed him in the last 12 months? Are we seeing like consistent month on month improvement? Sorry, are we seeing month on month improvement on him? And if that's not the case, why? Why are we buying a talent, a very well sought after talent in Europe? Why are we bringing him into Manchester United, and within a year and a half of him being here, there hasn't really been any clear development or improvement? Why is that? Okay, you meant Dalot, not Yoro. Fair enough. That for me is the biggest conversation I would like to have about Leny Yoro, because those two mistakes yesterday he makes are poor mistakes, and he should learn from them. He should 100% learn from them. But I want to see young players like with Aiden Heaven, for example. When he came at Manchester United, I had no expectations of him. I had no expectations from him. He's consistently, for me, shown good performances. He's been hooked at half-time, but I can see those patterns of improvement with Leny Yoro, especially this season and especially the last couple of months. I feel like he might have regressed slightly. And I think that's what we need to talk about. Big up Matthew says it's 12:23 a.m. in Singapore. You think we should play Casemiro and Licha in midfield? That's a good question, That is a good question. Obviously, with Bruno Fernandes being out, the biggest conversation is who's going to play in midfield. For me, Licha, I was skeptical yesterday. You guys can go see the tweets. I literally tweeted saying, is Amorim actually bringing on Licha in midfield against this midfield for a guy who's played 50 minutes all season? But Licha can do what you need your six to do, right? You got a man running at you with the ball. He can stop that. He can stop that. He can play that line breaking pass into the tens. He can play that switch out wide. He can do everything Ugarte can't do. He can do everything that Ugarte can't do. Now, with saying that, I'm not against Licha playing in the midfield. But I will say, going into the Newcastle game, I think coming up against Joelinton, Bruno G, Tonali, we're going to need more than two guys in the midfield. And the way that Ruben Amorim likes to play their midfield in particular, let me just show you guys on here. Ugarte is the sit, and Bruno is essentially playing here. So, like, for example, yesterday, if I just put these guys up here, Mount, Cunha, all over the place. Ugarte is the sitter, and Bruno Fernandes is always in that little space or the pockets between the opponent's midfielders. So you got obviously more attackers. Essentially, I'm just putting it like this quickly. This is not exactly how the setup was, but I'm just gonna quickly do it like this. This is essentially for me how Ruben Amorim likes to have his midfielder. You got so much space there. I can trust if that's Licha. I can trust that it can work. With saying that, yesterday Ugarte, when Bruno came off and Licha came on. Yesterday, Ugarte was the guy here. I couldn't believe it. I genuinely couldn't believe it. Now, with saying that, if it was Casemiro, hypothetically, I'm going to put Casemiro in there. Between these two, the reason why I'm wondering how does Amorim fit them two together in? Who's going to be the one that's more advanced, that's like the Bruno of the midfield? Is it going to be Casemiro? I know that Casemiro can get the ball nicked off him in any given minute in tight spaces. Or is Ruben Amorim going to ditch that and just get these two to just sit? Will he get them to sit? Which I'm curious to know, especially against Newcastle. Because one thing about Newcastle, and it's so funny, guys, check out the Premier League. My interview with Tonali just dropped this afternoon on the Premier League YouTube channel. And we spoke about it was, as a United fan, it was tough. But he's a great player. And it's not just him that I'm worried about. It's Bruno G. It's Joelinton as well. So I want to know whether Ruben Amorim is going to abandon this lone kind of midfielder that covers like this. He kind of goes back to front. Yesterday, if you lot saw, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was parts of the game when United were chasing a goal. And Heaven came out wide here and Leacher dropped in here to pick up the ball. And then Ugarte was here. So the gap in the midfield, vacant. Tielemans is in there to be able to press. You know, Onana can come tight. Kamara can come here. It got to a point where even Onana and Tielemans were in this area here. There were minutes, there were moments where United were essentially playing with a back four. It wasn't much, but it was when Leacher was dropping into that space to pick up the ball. So whether Casemiro and Leacher can coexist together, I don't doubt it. I think they definitely can. But I want to know who would be the more... Because, for example, if you said to me today, Mount will play next to Leacher, and it'll be like this, it would make sense. And say you got a Zirkzee in the 10, right? Hypothetically speaking. This would make sense to me. Because Mount can play here. Mount can be here. Mount can be here. Mount can be what Bruno was in terms of picking up similar spaces behind the front three. If Leacher's requirement is just to kind of sweep here, get the ball into the pockets here, get the ball into the pockets here, into here, etc. If that's his job, Leacher can do it with a more competent and capable guy. Like Mason Mount for me yesterday was his ceiling might not be like a world-class player, right? But on the ball, I don't think anybody takes care of the ball the way that Mount does when he's in possession. He's very responsible in possession, and we don't have that. We actually don't have someone that is responsible in possession. Big up to Danny with the super chat. Danny, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Says our defenders got isolated for 1v1 for the goals. It's a system issue. You saw how Villa didn't let this happen to them. Big up Minna. You know what? I was actually watching. I can't remember. I think it was. I was watching Match of the Day last night. Don't ask me why I still watch Match of the Day, guys. It was just on. But I was watching Match of the Day last night, and it was Wayne Rooney and Dion Dublin on it. And they were talking about the isolated moments for the defenders, for Man United defenders versus the Villa defenders. And he said, and Wayne Rooney said something that I mentioned in a video a while back, where I was saying, you know, a lot of teams have figured out if you isolate United's defenders, the coverage ain't there. So it's very easy to get them 1v1. And if you can win your 1v1 battle, which most times players do, you kind of got Man United for toast defensively. And that's what Villa did yesterday. I agree, Danny. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. I really appreciate it. I will put Zirkzee in the 10. I don't mind Zirkzee in the 10. I just don't think the manager fancies him. Like, I know it's so wrong to say, right? It's so wrong to say because it's not about whether the manager fancies you or not. It should be about whether you're good enough. But I just don't think the manager fancies playing Joshua Zirkzee. I thought originally when Bruno got injured yesterday, let me just put this back. When Bruno got injured yesterday, initially I thought he was going to come on. I thought I saw him warming up. I thought he was the guy coming on. And then when the halftime was about to kick off, I saw it was Leacher coming on. And my thought process was Zirkzee comes on, Bruno goes off, Mount drops into midfield, Zirkzee goes into the 10. Because there's no way you're going to play Joshua Zirkzee in the 10. There's absolutely, you can't play a guy that can't run in the 10, in the midfield, sorry. So that was my thought process. But me and Ruben Amorim didn't have the same thought process. And with the links kind of heating up for him to possibly leave, I just think I just think we're not going to see him play. There's one thing I want to talk about, though. There's one thing I want to talk about for Manchester United, which is this right here. This is XG, right? This is based on XG, but statistically, this is correct. Manchester United concede far too many goals. Would you guys believe me if I said we've scored the same number of goals in the Premier League as Arsenal have? Arsenal, who are top of the table. Obviously, City are flying and they've scored the most goals, but Manchester United are in top 5, I think top 3 actually, for goals scored. But we leak in goals like our life doesn't depend. Like, you would think that we fully believe that the goals that we concede don't count with the way that we concede goals. Forget the manner that we concede them in. The way that we concede goals and the fact that we concede this many goals, to concede 28 goals. Look at this. Wolves, West Ham, Burnley, Leeds, Bournemouth. 2 of them newly promoted teams, Leeds and Burnley. Two of them are in an essentially relegation scrap. One of them is one of the worst Premier League teams I've seen in a long time in the Prem. And then Bournemouth, who is crazy because Bournemouth have changed their back line. Let's keep it frank, right? Manchester United, we have not changed our back line to an extent in terms of having new players this season. We change our back line every game, but it's the same players that were there last season. Bournemouth lost Kirkers and they lost Dean Howson, right? I expect them defensively to not be that great. I'd expect them that to be the case. Chicken says, "Oh, this is interesting. I'd rather score a lot and concede a lot than not conceding but not scoring either. Less boring, like LVG era." Who else believes agrees with this sentiment? Because for me, it takes away from you gain nothing from it. You gain nothing from it. You gain more from not just because you don't score doesn't mean you don't concede either, and vice versa, right? Just because you score doesn't mean you have to concede, and that is probably the point that I'm trying to get across the most. Defensively, there are too many individual errors as well as systematic issues for Manchester United with the way that we keep conceding goals, and I don't like that. Now, yes, we've improved in our goal scoring. Still, there's still a big gap for us to fill when it comes to the amount of chances we're creating and what we're actually scoring. But Man United will score a goal, and 9 times out of 10 that conceded goal is coming. It's not a matter of if we're going to concede. It's just a matter of when. It could be straight after we score. It could be 10 minutes before the end of the game. It could be 5 minutes after the second half starts. You know that United are going to get... For example, Wolves. The Wolves game is a good example. Wolves are the worst team, right? They're the worst team. Deep down, I still had a feeling they would score because it's on brand of us right now to play like that. I don't know if we like the thrill of chasing a game or we like the thrill of a comeback. Listen, that Bournemouth game was so entertaining, but also it just showed you deficiencies for both teams. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed that Bournemouth game, but I was just thinking the whole time, what the hell is wrong with us? And what the hell is wrong with Bournemouth? What's wrong with both teams at this point? Either way, our objective is to stop leaking goals. I think we need to. That's why I'm saying that we need to speak about the number of goals that United are conceding. That for me is the biggest talk. How can we concede this many goals? And I think statistically, if we continue at this rate, I think it's statistically we will concede 60-something goals by the end of the season, just based on estimations. How can we have near enough 5 or 6 defensive players on the field and still concede to that level? That is for me the only concern, and this is what I was saying earlier. This is what I meant earlier: is the fact that we've scored 31 goals. How many did we concede last year? Let me have a look at the table. Premier League table 24-25. Last year we conceded a lot of goals. Last year we conceded 54 last season. So look at this. We scored 44 goals in the whole of last season. We're already on 31 right now. So we are likely, unless we don't score more than 13 goals between now and May, we will exceed that. I don't think we've hit the 60 mark for goals scored in a number of years in the Premier League. I know under Erik ten Hag, we were breaking 50 something consistently. I don't think we've hit 60, 70 in a long time. But last year we conceded 54 goals. We had a -10 goal difference. Right now we're on 28. But like I said, if you look at the rest of the league, Liverpool with their new front line, 28. Chelsea, 29. City, 41. They're in a league of their own right now, and Arsenal, 31. So that for me is the key area for improvement. Let's talk transfers, guys. Be sure to hit the like button, by the way. If you just come through, be sure to subscribe as well. If you are new here, if you want to join the membership club as well, you can. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get your badges, you get your emojis, you get your custom member content. Of course, you get to support the growth of the channel, the ever-growing channel here. The community is growing every single day. And if you want to support the channel in alternative ways, you can by sending in super chats with your comments, with your questions, with your thoughts or just to show some love. And as an independent content creator, like I say all the time, your support goes a long way in improving the output and the quality of the content here that I produce every single day. So you can support the channel just like that. Let's talk midfield. Let's talk midfield, because we've been linked to a lot of midfielders, right? We've been linked to a heap of midfielders. But I think the most common question for me right now about the midfielders that we're linked to is it realistic? Don't talk to me about Elliot Anderson and Carlos Belay, because they don't seem like realistic January targets. Maybe it's that for me, Belay and Elliot Anderson, Adam Morton, etc., is conversations for the summer, right? January, United have to sign a midfielder. Even without the Bruno injury, yeah, I would have said that United still needed to sign a midfielder, even without Bruno Fernandes going off injured. We have to sign a midfielder. And I think, if anything, this one has just speeded up the necessity for United. I think this one has just speeded up the necessity. Now, two players that we've been linked to in this window is Conor Gallagher, who seems to be dying for a return back to England. Everywhere I go, Conor Gallagher is being linked somewhere to a Premier League team. And Ruben Neves of Al Hilal, who for me would epitomize what United need based on how we play right now. Just based on how we play. Given the fact that the way that Inzaghi has Al Hilal playing is quite similar, or Manchester United should try to replicate that if they want to persist with the back 3, back 5 thing. And Ruben Neves for Al Hilal is very instrumental to do that. And Al Hilal, can I just say, have a very good midfield. They've got a very good midfield. It works for them as well, because if they let Ruben Neves leave, they can sign another foreigner. In the Saudi Pro League, you are capped to the number of foreigners that you can have on your squad. So him leaving would free up a spot. And it's reported that he would like a return to Europe, to the Premier League, and he's even willing to lower his wages. Manchester United, according to multiple reports, are also exploring the possibility of signing him. Now, I don't know whether it could be a loan move or a long-term move. I'm talking a 2.5-year deal, something like that. I think United should be over this. And we're going to talk about Semenyo, but I think it's negligent if we signed another attacker without even bringing in a midfielder. Whether or not the attacker that you want to sign, like Semenyo, is kind of restricted within a 10-day period that you can sign him, or sign him for that price that he's available for. I genuinely think it's negligent if we were to sign another attacker in this £200 million attack that we already have without signing a midfielder. Because we're not going to use the academy kids. We're not going to use them. We're not going to have Kobbie Mainoo. We're not going to have Kobbie Mainoo bursting onto the scene for us, because the manager won't utilize him. I cannot fathom the idea of having an Ugarte Casemiro pivot. Even just saying that it makes me laugh, guys. Even just saying that. For Al Hilal, he plays as a lone CDM. Yeah, essentially he plays as a lone CDM. And then when they play with a back 4, but when they want to in build up, he drops in between. And they got a back 3. And we saw them do it as well. If you lot obviously watched, a lot of people only watch Al Hilal when it comes to like the Club World Cup they were familiar with. But they did that even in the Club World Cup. That was one of their staple points. And they still do it right now as well. They still do it right now. I think Ruben Neves, for the right price, should absolutely be a deal that Manchester United are all over. With Bruno Fernandes being out for at least a month. With a hamstring injury, I think obviously there's levels to a hamstring injury. It could be a couple of weeks, depending on how bad it is. The worst case scenario is multiple months. And I think the best case scenario right now for Manchester United is a month. And that's what reports are saying. You have to focus on actual targets. Don't sign a midfielder you don't want over a player you actually want. Semenyo can play multiple roles. I don't know, King in the Indies. I kind of disagree with this slightly. Not because I'm saying you shouldn't sign, a player that you actually want in your attack. But I just think there are many players that listen, regardless of whether United want a midfielder or not, we already know we need one, right? But I think United need to sign 2 midfielders. And realistically, I don't think United are going to sign 2 midfielders next summer. And realistically speaking, I don't think we're going to sign Anderson and Baleba. I always think it's going to be one of them. It's not going to be Wharton and Baleba. It's not going to be Anderson and Wharton. It's not going to be Wharton and Stiller. It's going to be one of them. For that price tag, we are only going to sign one player above a certain 80, 90 million price tag. That's just a hypothetical price tag, right? With saying that, Manchester United, for me, need 2 midfielders. And if you can get one in January that's of a lower price, but is not the marquee midfielder that you want because you're going for your marquee midfielder in the summer, I think you should be all over it. Especially if I don't think the player will be the big difference maker, but I think there will be a slight difference in the way that Manchester United can play. Because right now, we're short on midfielders, right? We're short on midfielders. We got Ugarte, Casemiro. Leach as a makeshift midfielder. That's it. Maybe Mount if you want to play him in that position. Maybe Mount. We are short on midfielders. You got your best midfielder out. You got Kobbie Mainoo, whose future is uncertain at the club. We don't know what's happening. Right now, this time next week, floodgates could open, right? The floodgates could open as the end of December is coming closer. And come January 1st, transfer requests could be handed in. His agent could be pushing for a move to him to leave. Napoli might come in with that bid. There's so much uncertainty around Kobbie Mainoo's future at Manchester United and with this manager that I don't think we should gamble on, oh, the manager's going to eventually use him. Oh, Kobbie Mainoo's not going to leave, etc., etc. I'd rather we bring in a midfielder in the January window who ticks all the boxes that you need and doesn't have to be a £100 million signing. I think a lot of the time, as football fans, I think we've become so indoctrinated to believe that right now, football players, if they're not above a certain fee, then they're not good. You can find some good players on the market for reasonable fees. They don't have to be the marquee name that you like. You don't always have to sign that marquee midfielder, for example. And Man United, for me, need 2 midfielders going into the season next year. They need 2 midfielders. So if you're going to sign a Baleba or a Elliot Anderson or whoever it is in the summer window, because Nottingham Forest ain't going to do business with you in January unless you're talking 120 million. Brighton have made it clear they're not going to do business with you. And Carlos Baleba is away at AFCON. So that's going to maybe restrict the timing. If you don't have that opportunity to do that in January and you're going to wait for summer, cool. But don't let another transfer window pass you and you prioritize another attacker in the team. Semenyo, for me, is a left winger, right? And the prospect and the conversations of him playing at wing back, for me, it makes me laugh slightly just because of this is what we've become as Man United fans. We obsess over these positions like wing back, etc. He can play as a wing back, right? But then you need decent coverage in midfield. You need decent coverage in midfield if you're going to allow someone like... Why is someone buzzing my door like that? I hate when I get deliveries, guys, because they just be buzzing like mad. Anyways, as I was saying, with Semenyo, you're going to have to need your attacker like him to have no defensive duty or restricted or decreased, defensive duty. What do you need then? You need midfielders to cover the weight. You need your wide centre-backs to cover the weight because that's what a wing-back system is. And if you're going to genuinely play your winger as a wing-back like you do with Ahmad, then you need to invest in your midfield. I think it's a domino. I do think that there's a domino effect on positions. Like, in order for one position to thrive, you got to have quality in the other position. Are any of these potential signings realistic? We always get linked, but they never materialize. I think these are realistic signings. The Conor Gallagher one is interesting because we were linked to him obviously towards the end of the transfer window. We're linked to him like the last week or so. I don't think he's playing much as well. Let me actually see. Conor Gallagher. Let's see how much minutes he's played this season. He's only been in the starting 11 4 times for Atletico. He's been subbed on 14 times in the league. And Champions League, he's only started 50% of their games, so 3 games, and he's been on the bench. The minutes that he's accumulated is not that much, honestly. He's coming in for 20 minutes here, 15 minutes here. So he could possibly be looking at an exit at Atletico Madrid, which sounds like the case. It definitely sounds like the case. Talking about Semenyo, I do want to hear you lot's thoughts on Semenyo. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that both Manchester United and Manchester City have been in direct contact with Antoine Semenyo. Both clubs are active in talks to sign him. Tottenham were reportedly keen on him as well and were prepared to pay him a significant salary, but he politely declined, as his only options right now are Manchester United and Manchester City, and Liverpool haven't made a move for him. That's from David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano have both reported that. And Sky Sports earlier this afternoon have reported that it's a possibility that Semenyo could make a decision on his future today. So obviously we've been linked heavily to him. I don't want to be that person, but I'm going to put it out to you guys. If Man City come knocking right now and Man United come knocking and one of them wants to play you as a winger and one of them wants to play you as a wing back, where are you going? One of them's playing Champions League football. One is playing once a week. Genuine question to you guys. If you were Semenyo, where would you go? Now, with saying that, I'm holding on to the slight possibility that United could sign him, because it's very clear that United are trying to sign. You know, for me, Semenyo is in the bracket of Cunha and Mbeumo, the mid-table teams, but you have top quality. You have top quality. And for me, Semenyo is probably one of the best wingers he's probably one of the best wingers in the league right now, without a doubt. Without a doubt, 100%. But I'm just skeptical of that wing-back thing. That could be enough to put him off. Quenda is an example, right? Man United wanted Quenda. Chelsea came and scooped him up. It was reported that he didn't want to play wing back anymore, and the possibility is that at Chelsea he will play as a winger. Of course, that's a conversation for a different time. I don't want him. Riri, why is that? Mid-table Galacticos, yeah, that's the way you could put it. Imagine Semenyo, Cunha, Sesko, Mbeumo, and Ahmad playing together. It's a great team on paper. Like those are great players on paper, but those are also some players that want the ball a lot. And for me, multiple people got to firm it and be the role player. You can't all be the star. You can't all be the star. For example, yesterday, right? Cunha for me is such a breath of fresh air to watch, because he's the only person I feel like in game tries to make things happen. Sometimes it's frustrating to watch because I'm like, you're doing the most. But then in my head, I'm like, you're doing the most because no one else is doing it, right? But sometimes I think people have to play their role. And right now I'm curious to see how Cunha gets on with no Bruno in the team, no Mbeumo in the team, no Ahmad in the team. He's essentially going to have to be that guy. But if you put Cunha in the team and you put Mbeumo in the team and you got Semenyo and Ahmad to the left and the right of them, that's 4 players in your attack that are going to want the ball at their feet. Maybe Mbeumo to an extent, I would say, can make those runs in behind. He's not essentially like a Cunha or an Ahmad or even Semenyo to an extent. I think Semenyo can make those runs in behind as well. But they are all, give me the ball, I'm going to make something happen type players. And I just don't know if all of that can coexist at once in the team. I'm not too certain about that. But with saying that, you look at who Semenyo is linked to right now, right? And there's a possibility he might not even leave Bournemouth. There is a genuine, I think people are not having the conversation about he might not even leave. He might choose to be like, I'll stay till the summer and then I'll leave. Bear in mind, he signed that new deal in the summer, right? With them. So he might just be like, what, I will wait till the end of the season and then I will leave. And then I will leave. Leaving mid-season is not always, I think, the best situation. I think Cunha had an opportunity to leave mid-season as well last year, but he didn't. It's not always the best solution or the best outcome for a player. But so many people, Fabrizio, Sky, everybody is reporting that without a shadow of a doubt, United are in to sign him. And I like Semenyo. I just don't know how realistic it is that he joins Manchester United. That's just the only thought that I have. But with saying that, I think United will go for an attacker because I think Joshua Zirkzee will leave. And I think I said this a while back. I've been saying this the last couple of months or so with the talk about Semenyo wanting Zirkzee, wanting to leave Manchester United, etc. Roma are reportedly closing in on a deal with Joshua Zirkzee at Manchester United. They haven't made a bid directly to Manchester United. They want to obviously get that finalized with Zirkzee first, and they're closing in on finalizing an agreement with him. It's reported to be a loan with a potential option to buy, a 5 million loan fee, 30 million fee, and then 5 million in bonuses if certain achievements are made. In Roma, he wants to go back to Italy. It makes sense. This is a move that probably just makes sense for both clubs and the player. And I'm really, I don't know. I don't want to say sad. I don't want to say sad because I don't think sad is the right term to use. But I really had more hopes. You know, with Joshua Zirkzee and Ruben Amorim, yeah, that Everton game last year deceived me a little bit. Because that Everton game, Ruben Amorim's second Premier League game in charge, and we bopped them 4-0. I thought, yeah, we've got Joshua Zirkzee got a role to play in this team. I genuinely thought, yeah, he's got a role to play in this team. Creating and scoring that day, I thought, he's got runners off of him. We know what he can do. And I just genuinely think since that day that he got hooked at halftime against Newcastle, I don't think he's been the same. I don't think he's been the same. He scored a couple of goals since then, and that was over. That was nearly a year ago. I think it was like the 30th of December or something, 29th, around that time. That was nearly a year ago. I don't think he's been the same as a player. To get hooked at before halftime is one thing, but to get booed off by the crowd is another thing. And maybe him leaving Manchester United is the best. I remember debating with so many people about Zirkzee and just saying that for me, Zirkzee is a luxury player. He's the icing on a cake when you've got the cake finished, right? But United right now are not a finished cake. The cake hasn't risen yet. We haven't put enough baking soda in there. The cake's a bit flat. So when you put your cherry on top of it, it's just flat with the cake. That is, for me, that's how I look at it. He's a luxury player that you don't build around. He comes in and he's the final complement to the pieces that you have in the team. You know what it is? It's like when you decorate your living room, right? You got the TV, you got the coffee table, you got your couch, you got the carpet, you got all of that stuff, yeah? Sometimes people will buy books to put on the coffee table that just make the coffee table look like it's got stuff on it. But it's not books to be read. It's just like, in my language, we say sharhad, which is for display. It's just books that are there for display. That's Joshua Zirkzee. He's not the TV or the couch or the carpet or the curtain or the paint on the wall that is very important to how the living room is going to look. He's that final piece that you add to just make the room look finished. Final piece to a bad puzzle, yeah, if you want to call it that. If you want to call it that. And I just feel sorry for him. I don't know why we signed him. Personally, the summer that we signed him, there was so many strikers on the market, right? There were strikers on the market. And it was the most random signing, us signing Joshua. I remember saying, guys, I don't know what this signing is about. I don't know what this signing is about. I remember he was at the Euros, barely played at the Euros. He was like a fifth choice striker or something. He only got there because someone dropped out because of injury. And he was a data-driven signing. That's what the report said. He was a data-led signing. Another player that was a data-led signing, Patrick Dorgu, another data-led signing. Both of them signed by Ineos. But I just think Joshua Zirkzee, I think fans have been really harsh on him. I feel sorry for him, and I wish him well if he does leave. And I think he's the more likely out of all of them. He has potential, but he's a player who needs to be playing week in, week out. 100%. He's a player that barely play. Last year, I think we saw him mostly in Europa coming off the bench, or maybe starting here once every couple of games. We barely saw him start in the Prem. Barely saw him even come off the bench at one point. And I just don't know how we can expect consistency from players when they don't even get consistency in playing time from the manager. I think it's harsh. People will say when you get your moment, you need to come on and make an impact. But I can't expect you to make an impact in the game when you're rusty because you've not played. You've not played. And even this season, like the last couple of games, I remember him coming on and heavy touch here, misplaced pass here. And I'm just thinking, I can't be harsh with the criticism, bro, because you just don't play. You don't play. So when you do play, I actually have no expectation from you. And if anything, if you do something good, I'll applaud it. But it's harsh. I think it's quite harsh to criticize heavily with him. He's another player as well that I just think, why did we sign him? Like, what was the reason or the logic behind us signing him when we evidently needed a striker that would score goals? Because he didn't score a lot of goals. We didn't score a lot of goals before he came. But yeah, is that it? I think that might be it, guys. Yeah, that's it. Oh no, just a few more things. Manchester United are reportedly, this is coming from Sully, shout out to Sully. He says that Manchester United are looking at possible midfield options in January following Bruno Fernandes's injury. There's tests today which will determine the extent and Kobbie Mainoo's uncertain future. There are internal meetings have taken place to find solutions. A decision will be made. Ruben Amorim also confirmed that against Newcastle on Friday, Kobbie Mainoo will be out and Bruno will be out as well. Maybe that Kobbie thing ain't. Maybe it's not an injury. Now that I've seen that, I'm thinking, Minute, any more news on the other two potential signings for the women's team? It's coming, man. Calma. We need to get these other two done first. And then after those are done and kind of filed away, then it'll be the next two. I think it'll be a midfielder, then a winger. And it's just a matter of time with those. But listen, guys, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well if you are new here. Now, let me actually show you guys something that you guys can go and watch. Let me just pull it up on here. I'm so silly. I don't know why I did this. Here you go. If you guys go over to Premier League, if you go over to the Premier League YouTube channel right here, interview that I did with Tonali is out. Let me show you guys. There you go. Interview that I did with Tonali is now out. So go check that out. I know it's convenient, guys. They drop it just a couple of days before we play them. But it was a great interview. Tonali is a top guy. Like, he's one of the best midfielders in the Prem. But he's such a lovely guy. It was such a nice interview. So I will drop the link in the chat down below. So go and check it out and leave some love in the comment section. We'll be live with Straight Jacket podcast in about 30 or so minutes on Saeed's channel. So make sure you lot come through because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to discuss over there. But yeah, like I said, guys, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to subscribe. Big up to everyone that came through, and I'll catch you guys all tomorrow, same time for Daily Dose of Minna. And then yeah, we'll see what the rest of the week has for us, guys. I'm out. Have a great one. Peace.